Will your game survive the onslaught of streaming and YouTubers and Let's Players? We're going to talk about why it might not coming up. What's going on, guys? Tim Rustwick here from Game Dev Underground, GDU.io, helping you build, finish, and launch better games. Today, we're talking about streaming, specifically streamers on Twitch or Let's Players on YouTube or anyone part of the influencer economy that kind of plays games online for other people to watch. Now, this was brought to my attention actually by a Reddit post. It was an AMA on Reddit, and I was reading through it by a game developer that was traveling the world making games, which I think is awesome. And they were talking about, they used the words survive streaming. And that really got me to think like of a story when my girlfriend and I, we were hanging out, we were watching Markiplier one day, right when Resident Evil Biohazard came out. He was doing a full playthrough of it. I don't usually watch Markiplier. I don't usually watch full games. I like to watch people play games, but not usually full games. But you know, that game is a very compelling story. It's really interesting. It's really fun to watch. So we got into it. We started watching it. We ended up watching like I think 8 of the so episodes, and then I had to come back. So I watched the rest myself, and we were talking about it later. Or I was talking about it with my brother, and I was telling him like, "Yo, dude," because he's always been a super fan of Resident Evil. I haven't been a real fan of Resident Evil, but I was telling him about it. I was like, "Yo, you got to get this new one. It's almost like the Tomb Raider reboot that they did for Tomb Raider. Like, it's completely different than other Resident Evils. It's like a fresh new take on it. It's awesome. It's great." And he was like, "Dude, I didn't know you played Resident Evil." And I was like, "Well, I didn't." He's like, "Well, how do you know all this about the game?" And I was like, "I watched somebody play through the entire game." And that's when it hit me. I'm never going to buy Resident Evil Biohazard. The only point that I would buy, the only point of buying Resident Evil Biohazard would be to play through the game and experience the story. But I've already experienced the story. I've already done that. I've already watched someone play through the game. So in a sense, if you think about it, Resident Evil Biohazard, in my case, did not survive streaming. It didn't survive YouTube and Let's Play because I will never buy the game. Now, I don't know if I ever would have bought the game, so I don't know, the actual date. I guess this is a whole thing that companies go back and forth with on piracy. Like, they say that you don't actually lose money because pirates would have never bought the stuff in the first place. I don't know how all that works out. I don't have all the numbers on all that stuff. I don't know if that works out, but I was thinking like, yeah, I would be much more likely to buy the game if I hadn't watched that. So that was interesting to me. And this is the first time that I really like had a light bulb go off in my head in a long time in this industry. Like, wow, this could actually be disrupting stuff. This could actually be causing problems. And I think it's important to understand that why people watch games, what people watch them for. And it's also important to understand what makes games fun after someone has played through the story, after someone has experienced that, or the initial, walkthrough. And I was thinking about like FTL, right, which is another favorite game of mine. I can watch people play that like all day, and I could still want to play that game over and over again. I think it has a lot to do with the randomized elements. But there are other games too that I think are really interesting that have unique things that keep you playing and they survive the streaming experience. Now, streaming can also do a lot of good, right? Like, I'm sure there are plenty of people that have watched someone play a game and been like, wow, that game is awesome. I want to buy that too. But I think this particularly affects story-based single-player games, because if you're playing a game for a story and you watch someone play through the whole story and that's all there is, that can be pretty damaging. That can be pretty scary to your game, because, I mean, back in the day, that used to be the only reason I played games. I used to love to sit down and go through an interactive experience and experience the story and just be like, wow, that was an awesome story. Like, almost like a movie. Games are evolving these days, and you got to understand that. Like, if you're working on a single player story experience, you got to understand that someone might play through it all the way. Do people have an incentive to play your game after that? Are there other things to do? Are there things to collect? Are there things to experience? Are there secrets to find? Are there things that you can do to play through the game after you've done that? I think Metal Gear was the first game that, well, I watched my brother play it actually, but when he was playing through it again, I was asking him, like, why are you playing through it again? He was like, well, it's a fun game, but also, like, once you beat the game, you can play through it differently. Like, I don't remember what exactly. I think you get a different suit or something like, or you could play as like the ninja guy. But I was like, wow, that's really cool, because now there's extra stuff, and it rewards you for like beating the game. It rewards you for playing through it again. There's something extra there that will keep you playing, or will help you along the path. So I wanted to bring this up because I see a lot of people, especially indie games, there's a lot of single player story experiences, right? And I don't want people to get discouraged when something like that happens, when someone plays through the entire game out in the open for free for everybody to watch, and they think their sales might be affected either way. Now, I don't know, again, I don't know the actual details on whether this would affect sales or how it affects sales. I just know how I feel. And I feel a lot less inclined to purchase Resident Evil because I watched the walkthrough. So just keep that in mind. Keep in mind that your game these days has to survive streaming. It has to survive YouTube. And those are great forms of marketing, right? Those are great. It's a great way to get your game in front of a bunch of eyeballs. But for certain types of games, you might want to just be conscious of the fact that someone could play through the entire game in front of the audience. And if there's nothing else except the story, the audience might not feel compelled to buy your game after that. So it's just a point I wanted to bring up. I wanted to help you guys out as always. If you have anything to add to this, or you have any opinions, or you have any data on how this affects the industry, or any anecdotes or anything like that, please leave them below in the comments. I'd love to start a discussion like this with you guys. I'd be really interested to see what you have to say. But once again, I'm Tim Ruswick, and I will see you guys next time.